And I'd like to welcome in Daniel Davis, host of Daniel Davis Deep Dive on YouTube. Great to see you, as always. So this bipartisan congressional delegation is today taking part in this whirlwind round of meetings with the leaders of Denmark and Greenland. The Danish people have made it clear they have no interest in a U.S. takeover of their country. Let's listen to some of the latest that we are hearing from President Trump when it comes to acquiring Greenland.
Well, we're going to see NATO has been dealing with us on Greenland. We need Greenland for national security very badly. If we don't have it, we have a big hole in national security, especially when it comes to what we're doing in terms of the Golden Dome and all of the other things. We have a lot of investments in military. We have got the strongest military in the world, and it's only getting stronger.
All right, Lieutenant Colonel. So the majority of the people in Greenland don't want this to happen. The majority of people in Denmark don't want this to happen. The majority of people in America don't want this to happen. Do you think any of that makes a difference to the Trump administration?
I mean, it doesn't seem like it does, because if those facts have been known, and it wouldn't have been hard to find out a long time ago, and yet the fact that he continues to press this issue so vehemently implies that those things don't matter. And I remember even when just a few days ago when President Trump was pressed on this issue about what Greenland thinks, and he says that's their problem. So it doesn't look like he's dissuaded by any of this stuff. But you know, at the heart of this is just this, I don't know where this idea came to him. I don't know who's telling him on the inside that we have to have Greenland for our national security, because we don't. We already have one military base there, and there's an existing treaty that we could add others. And both the Europeans and the Greenlanders have both indicated they'd be willing to see some expansion on that, but not taking over the country. That they don't want to do, any of them. So we don't need to go down that path to even expand our security, which we also don't need, because our existing force structure and ability to project power already keeps us safe up there. No matter how much ice is melting, there's no additional risk there that we can't already handle without taking over Greenland. That's the part I think people need to understand.
All right, so as you were talking there, we are taking this live look at Air Force One there as the president is heading down to Florida. All right, Lieutenant Colonel, I'd like to listen to some of what we have heard from the press secretary.
This is a conversation the administration intends to keep having with the Danes and with the respected delegation from Greenland. But the president has made his priority quite clear. He wants the United States to acquire Greenland. He thinks it's in our best national security to do that.
What do you make, Lieutenant Colonel, of the president's unwillingness to take military action off of the table?
Well, that's something that should really alarm everybody. That it's ever even been on the table, even if it's one of like 10 different things, is alarming. This is a NATO ally. This is somebody that is a very peaceful country. There is no reason to even have it on the table, because it's not necessary. It's not necessary for their national security, for our national security. And listen, let's just look at it militarily. This idea that Russia or China could take over Greenland is absurd at face value. Neither of those countries have the capacity to do so. If Russia wanted to, the force that would be required to do that, even on a conventional level, is just astronomical, and they don't have it. China is even less so, because they don't have a physical Arctic presence, and their ability to project power with their navy just doesn't exist for this kind of thing. So there is no threat that Russia, we got to point out, already has a huge presence in the Arctic, and they have no need to take over anything. Why would either of them want to do it? Because neither of them would benefit from it. And so then you have to ask, since that's the case, then why is the president willing to put military force on the table to take an ally in the region that we don't need? I don't understand that part.
All right, so we know that there was the meeting in Washington this week. Danish officials left this week's meeting between the U.S. saying that, fundamental disagreement remains. I think we all kind of know that. Let's listen, though, to some of what they said.
Ideas that would not respect territorial integrity of the Kingdom of Denmark and the right of self-determination of the Greenlandic people are, of course, totally unacceptable. And we therefore still have a fundamental disagreement, but we also agree to disagree. And therefore we will, however, continue to talk.
All right, Lieutenant Colonel. So I want to get your reaction to what we heard from Danish officials, but also your reaction to the fact that this morning we know troops and ships have arrived in Greenland. Germany, France, Sweden, Norway, Finland, the Netherlands, the UK, with this now increased troop presence from those countries. What message is being sent here?
Well, the message is being sent that the Europeans and the Greenlanders are saying, we're not just talking here. We will resist you. Do not send military force to try and take Greenland by power, because otherwise you will destroy NATO, because we're putting troops on the ground there. And it is mind-boggling that these forces are even moving in the possibility to where they're contemplating actually having a military engagement with the United States. Now, I am certain, with 100% certainty, that not one European force wants to do this. And I think that they're saying, we're going to put these guys on the ground to show you how serious we are so that you won't do this. But if we decide to ignore all that and actually send some forces and just try to occupy some territory, then you have the ever-growing possibility that either an error, a mistake, a miscalculation, or something else could cause people to start firing on one another. And I'm telling you, that would be the end of NATO. And the fact that we're even talking about this should alarm everybody, and hopefully will make their administration say, okay, this is not a good idea. Let's stand this down. And they can put whatever Band-Aid they want over it, but this needs to not happen.
Yeah, some real concerns here, particularly about some of the ripple effects. All right, always great to speak to you. Lieutenant Colonel Daniel Davis, thank you.